Hello everyone and welcome here to WR for PC Tier 2 for Season 14. I'm joined this time by Sappytron. Hello Sappy.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, of course, in
It
the Tier
is.
2 paddock.
And I've noticed on my screen I've got my camera's a bit stretched, but we'll have to sort that out for next time. But yeah, it's great to be here. Obviously we've both done PSGL, not together, but we have separately, so it's nice to be somewhere different. And we're in the PC Tier 2 this time for WOR. We've got lots of quick drivers in here, which is really nice. Looking through the list now, we've got Nick, Humphreys, Cohen, Palmer. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look through the lineup. There we go. I had to edit that myself a little bit. But yeah, in the Mercedes, we've got Sergio Sobrino and Tony Richet. In the Red Bull, we've got Pierre Sarnic and Leroy Brown. Ferrari, we've got Tommy 97 and Mark Schluter. Tommy's not here today. He's been replaced by Lars Butterman. In the McLarens, we've got Harvey Cohen and Philip Sousa. Alpine, Gianpietro Ogiano and Cameron Dowds. The Altos, we've got Lefty, also known as Conor Muir, and Simon Lukomsky. Aston Martin, we've got Theo McKee and Corey DeBacker. Williams, Jay, Esty, and Jack Humphreys. Alfa Romeo, we've got Daniel Yeltsin and Bogdan Moldovan. That's the wrong way round on the screen. And there for Haas, we've got Ballas Palmer and Andre Molnar. So we've got a really strong set of drivers here for this grid, which will be really nice. Obviously, I think Nick and Gianpietro have recently come from PlayStation, if I'm correct. I don't really know much about that side, but I've seen their names somewhere in PlayStation. And obviously, just having a little scan at the reserves, we've got quite a few on there as well. Obviously, got Marcus Harlem, Primoz, Kevin, Yannick, Lars, which is really nice to see. And Sappy, if you'd like to take us through the calendar.
Yeah, of course. So, taking a look at the Season 14 calendar, it's pretty stacked. I'm going to be honest, I can't lie to you, it's looking pretty stacked. So, Brazil, starting off, of course, beautiful circuit, usually seen as the ender of a calendar, but we thought, WR, let's flip it on its head. Let's change things up. It's so season opener. And then, of course, we move on to tracks like Circuit of the Americas, Baku City Circuit, Spa-Francorchamps, the Hungaroring, Portimao, Paul Ricard, and that takes us through to about March, and then you get to the second half of the season, which takes us to places like Bahrain, of course, got Jeddah Corniche Circuit, Yas Marina, Imola, Shanghai, which almost a bit of an oddball, I think. Say drivers don't usually expect to go to the Chinese Grand Prix, usually expecting more sort of familiar mainstays, like we'll say Monaco, for instance. Love it or hate it, Marmite track to many. That's usually one that you expect to see. So it'd be good to see how drivers respond to China in particular. Then, of course, rounding it off with the beautiful, beautiful track. I am biased. That is Silverstone, and rounding it out with the Austrian Grand Prix in the Red Bull Ring.
Indeed, I'm really excited for this calendar. It's nice to see tracks like Hungary, China, France, Azerbaijan all popping up. We don't really see them that much, on calendars for league racing. But ignore all them; they are in weeks to come. Today we're at Brazil, the Interlagos circuit. So we're gonna have a look at the track now. And here we are, the Interlagos circuit in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We have 3 sectors, obviously, as most tracks do. 2 DRS zones, one charging down towards turn 1 and the other one down the rest of Aposta down towards turn 4. Obviously, we have the center S's turns 1 through to 2, which we've seen many collisions. One of the most notable being last year between Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And then we go through the Curva de Sol, turn 3, down the rest of Aposta straight in towards the Descida de Largo, I hope I said that right, which is turns 4 and 5. We also seen Hamilton and Max collide there as well in 2021. Then we have the horrible, which I would say the horrible middle sector, really tight, twisty, and you've got to make sure you get every inch perfect, and you've got to make sure you can take the track as wide as possible. And then obviously, I think it was turn 8 where we saw Kevin Magnussen and Daniel Ricciardo collide in 2022. And then you have Juntse at turn 12, which is where you begin sector 3. Then you have the long charge up towards the start-finish straight where you'll begin your next lap. I really do like this track, to be honest. Sector 3 is a bit boring because there's not really much going on, but Sector 1 and 2, there's always room for battling with different drivers, which is something I really do like.
Absolutely. I mean, the place that I'm looking most at, probably the DRS zones, just because this is where you're going to see a lot of drivers just sort of firing it in, for lack of a better term. So especially that first DRS zone, say between turns 3 and 4. It's a downhill, it's a DRS zone. It's going to be prime time for drivers to get those moves in, especially considering you've got relatively medium speed corners coming out of there. So if you can nail a move and then, of course, heading into the more technical second sector, it's really hard to overtake through there. So if you can lock in a move around that area, then you are set for the lap. Of course, you have to defend from that second DRS zone, but it's going to be an interesting challenge.
Definitely. Obviously, we've always seen drivers in real life and in league racing. You're able to go side by side for nearly the whole lap. Obviously, in turns 1 and 2, you can go side by side. It was a bit risky. And obviously, down the Retro Aposta in towards turns 4 and 5, you can go side by side. And then travelling up through 6 and 7, a place you'd look and you think, surely drivers can't go side by side there, but they managed to, and it's really, really satisfying. And I'd say this is probably one of my favourite tracks in terms of fighting, because you don't normally see drivers going from the back of the grid to the front, but you can tend to see drivers make a couple of positions here and there just by being able to have a couple of good battles and just be able to get the elbows out, especially in that first and second sector.
Yeah, I think those areas are really where you're going to see the majority of the battling, but I think it's all about positioning. Really, you just want to get your car in the right place at the right time, say capitalize on it's particularly that first DRS zone to get a move basically locked in, and then just defend well enough to sort of keep that move through the second sector. But I think we're going to see a lot of battling in those sections in particular, and maybe a little bit opening up over the start-finish straight. Might see some interesting moves there, who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and especially for the season opener. When we heard about the calendar, I definitely didn't think that Brazil would be open. I thought maybe round 7, round 8, something like that. But we got it season open. I think it's a very nice gift. Let's go have a look at the chat here. Cameron's dad says, "Let's go, son." Cameron's dad follows me everywhere. Honestly, everywhere I commentate, Cameron's dad is always there. TMS says, "Richie, my goat." Sappytron, Richie, my beloved. We have Zenvius. What does it say? Tier 1, round 2 USA. He's live on your channel. I don't know about that one. That could be an issue with one of the other with one of the other streams. As is fine, by the looks of it. Yep, as is perfectly fine. But yeah, that's on the chat. Who do you think will get pole here? I'm going to go with Harvey Cohen. Mainly because he's a driver I've commentated over lots in the past. I know him very well. He's a very quick driver. First time I commentated over him actually was PSGL season 31, Austria, and he put it on pole there, but unfortunately couldn't turn it into a win, which is a big shame. Maybe we'll see him do that today if he takes pole here in Brazil.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's a safe bet. Of course, development driver, McLaren. I mean, you love to see it, really. And I'm recognising a lot of names from my commentating days in other leagues, so likes of Simon Lekomsky. I'm seeing a couple of the reserves, in fact, I did recognise, like Modesto Mena as well. And they might see a little bit of track time. I'll have to wait and find out on that one. JST first out on track to go and see, and hopefully we'll be able to see how they set a flyer here, because they're looking to be on full tilt, burning everything. So heading into the center, as is right downhill, absolutely nailing those apexes. It looks like keeping it nice and tight to the curb, minimizing that line as best it can, right in the center. It's all about This is where you're seeing a lot of the difference between sort of high-tier drivers and maybe those who are sort of in the middling pace. It's showing how close these drivers are willing to run to the limit, right on the inside of the corner, on the curbs, really willing to push the car to the absolute edge in service of those milliseconds. It's amazing.
It is indeed, and I think this is one of these tracks which anyone could be quick at. But the real thing that makes you quick around here is just how much you're willing to take a risk, because, you know, it's one of those tracks you've got to maximise everything possible in order to get a good lap time. There's some tracks which you could, like Silverstone, you know, you can do some things and get away with it, whereas around here, you've got to make sure everything's perfect in order to get that good lap time. And this is one of these tracks. If you can pull yourself out that DRS zone if you're leading the race, it's going to be really good for you to, you know, possibly, you know, win it at the end, because it's going to be very difficult for people to overtake you if they're not within that 1 second. We can see that Jay, oh no, he goes second as Lefty goes quickest with a 107 flat. Really nice there, nice banker from Lefty. We'll look a bit further down, look at Leroy Brown, currently coming through the final corner now, turn 15, up towards the line. Where can he put his Red Bull? He goes eighth.
You're seeing a lot of drivers start to come in from their initial laps now. It's looking about the 1 minute 7 seconds, so the 67-second mark is looking to be that sort of early bedding in point. I expect that to drop. I expect a few drivers will dip their toe into the 1.06. We've still got 15 minutes left here in qualifying and plenty of time for drivers to get acclimatized to the circuit, really stretch their legs in the cars. But we're seeing a decent spread of pace, and 107 looks to be that middle ground.
Yeah, definitely. It's a shame to see the two Alpines there in 13th and 14th. Obviously, Gianpietro 12.6. I don't believe that was an actual lap time, same as Cameron with a 10.3. But there is actually, surprisingly, a bit of a gap between 1st and 12th. Obviously, Lars is a really quick driver. Surprised to see him down in 12th with a 7.4. That is about, what, 3.9 tenths off Lefted's time. Daniel Yeltsin in P2 in the Alfa Romeo. Bogdan in P6. It's really nice to see him performing really well. He hasn't been on his best performance in PSGL and other leagues recently, so it's nice to see him back up there in the top 10. Yannick Schmidt, he's having a really good qualifying session so far, just 1,000th off the back of Yeltsin. And who's that? Gianpietro goes into P6 with a 7.249. Really nice. We're on board with Tony Ricciano in the Mercedes. Just coming down the Retro Aposta, shortly towards turn 4 and 5. We'll go on board with him now. To about 327 kilometres an hour there. Ooh, doesn't take much curb on the entrance to turn 4 there, so that might have been a bit of a mistake. But we'll stay on board as he comes through in towards 6 and 7 now. Very tricky. You've got to get this right. You've got to be able to take lots of risks coming through here. And Tony's not really taking much curb through turn 7, which is a surprise. Now in towards turns 8, 9 and 10. Oh, a bit of a snap there on the exits. Into the tricky braking zone of 10. There we go. Now rounding towards 11, shortly in towards John South, completes his second sector. And what does he do? A 50.8 with the first and second combined. Now charging out of turn 12 up to the sector 3, which really has not much skill involved. It's just about trying to keep as much speed as you go through the long left banked left-hander. He comes up to the line, a 7.3, puts him on the P13. PSR Nick in the Red Bull. Currently on his lap time, he's currently on a 28.7.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be changing very soon, as it looks like they are on track for a decent second sector, certainly an improvement over their previous. But look at the time split between all of these other drivers. P1 through P15 are separated by 0.4 of a second. I was say, make that P16, as we have a few more drivers starting to come into the firing order now. I wouldn't say Sector 3 is a lack of skill, more the fact that drivers have to push the limits to the absolute edge of that inside there without going on the track limits. Is PSR Nick going to break waves? Yes, it's going to. It's going to be P2 with a 107.042.
Really nice from Nick there.
26 milliseconds behind Lefted, up in pole position so far.
Yeah, really nice from Nick. Nice to get himself into that top 2 spot. His middle sets looked really quick, so I thought, you know, he'll be up there in that top 5. But to put it second is really nice for his bank lap, 7 flat. We're on board with Simon Lukowski now. I hope I said that correctly, because I can't pronounce Polish names. He's currently P19, obviously haven't set a lap time. Just coming in towards turn 8 and 9 now, in towards turn 10 very shortly. He's looking really quick. I've seen him in many leagues before. I haven't actually commentated over him before either, but I've watched, you know, many, I think PSGL, ORL, stuff like that, and he's been there and he's always on top form. Now in towards turn 12, sets a purple middle sector, 50.3 combined. That's really nice from Simon. Just got to see what he can do now, as he can, you know, you can always lose it in this sector if you have a lack of grip. But he's going to come towards the line now. Let's see what time Simon does. Puts himself P3, really nice for the AlphaTauris. First and third, that'll definitely be nice if they convert that into race results.
Yeah, it'll be great looking for the AlphaTauri. Certainly one of the strong suits, it looks like. Initially, Haas looked like they had that mantle with the initial P2 and P3, but Lefted coming through, solidifying what we were about to talk about, as they are the first driver to dip into the 106s with a .923. Harvey Cohen comes in 107.041, single millisecond ahead of PSR Nick, but it's not enough to break into that 106 barrier like Lefted has just done. The competition is hot right now.
It is. I'm on board with Daniel Yelton. He's just coming up towards the line. Let's see what time he can put on the board. Goes fourth, improves by just under half a tenth. This is really close between these top. We'll just say second to fourth. That's 0.02 of a second, which is absolutely mental. Harvey and Nick separated by 1,000th of a second. Like, you know, that's a time you just can't even imagine in your head. 1,000th of a second. By the time I say second, there's about 2 seconds gone by. But we're going to move down now to kind of Corner de Baca. I always get confused with this name because sometimes it's Corne, which I presume that's how it's pronounced, and sometimes it's Corey. So I never know what to call him, but we'll just stick with Corne, as that's what it says on there. He's, I don't think he's on a lap actually. We'll have to see though, because he was flashing. So, oh no, he's not on a lap. Bogdan Moldovan, he's just coming in towards turn 1 now. He's on a 107. Oh, big snap. So he's ruined that lap, whatever it was. I don't actually know if he was on a lap or not, but I guess he won't be now.
Yeah, I think with this track and with the amount of faith you're putting in your car to hold through some of the undulations of the track, I mean, you've got uphills, downhills. I think one of the big characteristics of Interlagos is the fact that there's no such thing really as a flat corner. Every corner has some form of banking or some form of incline or decline. You don't really see any of them having a completely flat trajectory. In each one of these scenarios, the drivers have to approach differently. So I think in terms of maximizing the car, you've got to have faith in that rear end. You've got to have a setup that works for you. And that's something that's always fascinated me. It's like the setups of the cars, how the drivers respond to the cars, and if they can make any adjustments to their driving style in the nick of time.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of them tracks, you know, you've got to have something that works for you, 100%. Some tracks you can deal with, a little bit of uncomfortableness in the setup, but around this track, you know, it's one of those, like we've already said before, you know, it's got to be perfect. Everything's got to be inch perfect. Otherwise, you're going to be you're going to spin around. You're going to be in the wall. Even turn 1 and 2, that's another tricky part. You know, you've got to get on the throttle as early as possible going out of turn 2. But sometimes, you know, you can lose the rear so slightly, and that's your lap done for. You know, you'll lose 2 or 3 tenths there by just having to lift a tiny little bit. We're on board with Sergio Sobrino now. He's set 16.7 in the first sector. Oh, and as I was saying, big snap there coming out of turn 4. And he's let off that lap. Looking really good coming out of turns 2 and 3. But he's just, you know, he's put too much faith in the car, just gone for it. And unfortunately, it hasn't gone the way he wants. But we're on board with Lars Butterman now, who currently sets the purple sector time for sector 1. He's currently coming through in towards turn 6 and 7 now. Rebel on the side. I think that might be Nick, just getting out the way. As Leroy's still in the pit lane. Oh, there's a car off track there. That's an AlphaTauri. Gone completely off onto the grass. But Lars now just coming through towards turns 9 and 10 now. He's got to be really careful because you can lock up very easily going into that box. It's a little bit banked off camber as you go into the corner. And that can always cause a little bit of trouble with the brakes. But now in towards John Say, he's up by 2.5 tenths on his previous time. That's good enough to put him around P10, P9. Just got to hope he can keep it all the way through this final sector. Just coming through in towards turn 15 now. Past the pit entry line, up towards the start-finish line. Where does he go? He goes 9th with a 107.141.
That prediction was more or less spot on. You said P10 or P9. Lo and behold, hits the nail on the head, as he casually does. Say, Sergio Sobrino with a 119 initial lap, but you know that they're going to be pushing and improving on that now. And fun thing is that you had that Ferrari, say the F1 25 of Lars Butterman, he set the fastest first sector, but then dropped 2/10 in sector 2. So it almost kind of balanced out either way, and certainly a good time. But as we were saying, and as we were looking at Sergio Sobrino, car control is absolutely everything. You get one minor snap, you already know that's your lap over. Even if you catch it in the nick of time, that's the difference in Tier 2 between P1 and P10.
It's
Harvey Cohen
goes quickest. Wow. That's a really good lap into the 6.8s now. Harvey the first, Lefted was the first to get into the 6s. Harvey's the first to get into that 6.8. Ballas Palmer, I was just on board with him. He went 10th with a 107.1. And Lefted goes into the 108s as well with an 8.36. I'll put him just about 600ths ahead of Harvey. So Lefted and Harvey really fighting for this pole position. And Simon Komsky, I think he's actually improved onto a 6.9. I didn't see that one. And JSD as well, he's improved to a 6.9 as well. We're going to go on board with Gian Pietro. I'm not sure if he's on a lap. We'll keep on board with him. No, he's not actually. Actually, is he? We'll stay on board with him. I don't know if he's or not. As he comes in towards 6 and 7, he's currently 7th with a 107 flat. Really nice to see how close these drivers are in this qualifying session. In towards turn 7 now. Then into the long left-hander of 8, in towards 9 and 10. And we've got to see if he's on a lap, because I think he is, but we don't know until he gets his set design for sector 1 and 2. We've got a yellow flag. I think that's the Mercedes of Sergio going slow. He's currently on a 7.2, and he's down by 200ths but set to purple sector. So when it said he was down by 300ths in the first sector, that must have been because he's on a lap time. So he's gained 300ths in that middle sector. He's just got to hope on the exit of Junsau, and he doesn't matter anyway, he's into the pit lane.
Sort of calling it time for that final shootout, seeing if we get that last opportunity as the checkered flag falls. And we're almost seeing like a game of leapfrog at this point, especially at the sharp end of the field. Got Lefted, Harvey Cohen, Simon Lacomsey, and JSD all in that 106 range. And they seem to be leapfrogging each other. Just as soon as Harvey Cohen gets that shot out on track, you have Lefted immediately coming back in and saying, actually, nope, I think I'll have that pole back. Thank you very much.
Leroy Brown just went 7th quickest, just behind his teammates. And Cameron Dowd actually set a really good time. I didn't see that one on the timing sheet, but he's pretty self 5th. Really nice from Cameron. Obviously, it just says Cameron on there, but it's Cameron Dowd. He's got the OP thing in his name. But yeah, he's just coming up towards the line. Oh no, he's going into the pit lane. Everyone's going to get ready for that. As Chris Buxton would say, the bonsai phase. I just thought I'd, give Chris a little bit of credit for that. I love that saying. On board with Leo Brown, he's just coming to the pit lane, I believe. Now he's just set his lap. And who do we have here? Tony, who's currently setting his out lap now for the final shootout of this qualifying session. But, Snappy, we've got to mention Mercedes, 19th and 20th. Not what they want to be at all, is it?
That's hardly where you want to be, and they've really only got one more chance to improve now. Say Tony Ritchie in particular, at the bottom of the field, 107.367. Now, this is such a tight field spread, half a second in it between P1 and P20. So really, the margin of error is so extremely fine with these drivers.
It is.
And you can't afford really to mess anything up. You see, Tony Ritchie is not going to go for a run this time out. They're going to potentially wait for a bit more space on track. We're waiting for more drivers to come through.
But then again, he could be doing a double out lap. Some drivers like to do that. It could be warming his toes up, or he could just be getting out there early, just so he can secure his place and able to have a bit of space there. And behind, you can see ahead of him is his teammate Sergio, and then behind it's just a McLaren. So he's got a nice gap to get his lap in. So that could be what that was all about. Just leaving it a lap extra, get a little bit more of space, so we can just push through his final lap. As really, he's currently in 20th. We'll go back on board with him. He's currently in 20th, so he's not really got much to lose. He's just got to make sure he gets on his lap and just pushes. To the limit, because he's 5/10 off. There's lots of time to gain. I believe he'll probably lost a lot in that first sector in turn 4, because that's where I commented on him when he went in there and he just missed the curve, missed the apex, so he probably lost a 10th or 2 there. And then obviously he probably would have lost a lot through the middle sector, as that's where drivers tend to lose a lot. Some drivers might have cars built for top speed, some might have them built for corners. So it just depends what type of setup he's running in his Mercedes. But we're going to go on board with him now as he's just coming up towards the line to set his final qualifying lap.
Yeah, so I think Simbis makes a good point in chat, like potentially burning fuel, the double out lap, to burn a little bit of curb weight off the car, because those little tenths, every little helps, as some might say. And we're about to see if those every little did in fact help. So Tony Ricci right now on a real stormer, pushing everything they have. 203 miles an hour speed trap coming through the first DRS zone. Is on a pretty good pace through the first sector. Is an improvement on their previous best. Can they hold it through sector 2 here?
Yep, on board and is he coming in towards turn 8? You can see he had to lift a lot in towards turn 7, so I don't know if that's what the line's meant to be. I'm always able to take that a little bit more on the throttle. And you can see there, look, he's had a little bit of a he broke a little bit deep in there, missing the apex on turns 10. He's now coming towards John Save. He's up by a 10th, which really is barely enough to get himself into 19th. Sergio Sabrino goes 8th, just 2/10 behind left did. Corner to back has retired. I believe that was in the pit lane, yes it was. And Sergio's retired in the wall at turn 1. Where does Tony go? On the 18th. Really not good at all, is it, that for Tony?
So just scraping past Sandro Molnar as a teammate, P8. Doesn't quite get to match that same glory, and we're seeing all the other drivers start to come through now. Harvey Cohen next across the line. Is it going to be an improvement? It's going to be an improvement, but it's not going to be enough. 0.862, still P2 behind lefted. You've got a few more drivers like Yannick Schmidt coming through now. John Pietro coming through. Alfa Romeo in the pit lane. Ferrari, I believe that is Lars Botterman. Nope, that is Mark Schulter with P13 coming through, but a lot of drivers opting to abandon and head into the pit lane, saying, yep, I've had my time, so go for it.
Yeah, I'm on board with Simon Compsey now, who's just coming through in towards the final corner. He's going into the pit lane. Daniel Jeltsen, exact same time as Yannick Schmidt, goes 5th. PSR Nick, currently on a 107 flap. He's up by 200s in that middle sector. Let's see, can Nick get himself into that top 5? But, you know, the gap between 9th and 7th is he's a 100th of a second. Leroy Brown goes 7th with a 6.9. Nick, I don't know if he improved that, but that was the last run of the qualifying session. And he stays 10th, so he didn't improve enough, or he improved by a tiny little bit. But that was a really good qualifying session. So close between the drivers. Look how close that is. P1 to P10, 1.8 tenths. And then we'll have a look what it is down to the bottom of the grid. It's 4 tenths. P1 to P17, 3 tenths. But obviously, Andre, Jack, and Tony just a little bit off, you know, where they should be in terms of the rest of the grid. But who took pole again? It was Lefted. Really not from Lefted. I've noticed over these past few weeks in the F1 game, it's really been where he's got some pace. You know, start of the game, he wasn't as quick as where he is now. Obviously, you know, he's always been quick, but I'd say over these past few weeks, probably since around round 4, round 5 PSG, he's really been on it. You know, every time I see him, he's always near the top of whatever grid he's racing in, which is really good. And he's got good race pace as well, so he can match it. And the top 5, separated by less than a tenth. This is going to be an interesting race, isn't it?
It's certainly going to be an interesting race. I mean, the grid spread is so unbelievably tight.
Yeah.
The pace is absolutely up there. And we're seeing, of course, some standout leads as we head into Tier 2 for the first time. But, of course, there could be some shake-ups in the middle. We've still got a lot of unknowns. I feel like there's a few drivers in there who didn't quite get the chance to show their moxie in qualifying. We'll see what they can bring out in the race. I'm keeping my eye eagerly on that mid-pack, as it looks like that is where a lot of the drama's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously Harvey's one of them, you know, he always wants to be at the top. So having to settle for P2, he'll want to be fighting back into turn 1. So that could be interesting between the top few guys, top 4 or 5, I'd say, going in towards turn 1. Some might be trying to make moves, and some might just want to stick behind. You never know. You know, wait for the DRS in a couple of laps' time. That could give them a bit of an advantage. But we're currently waiting for players. I think some might have had a little bit of an issue, as we're not normally waiting this long. I'll tell you that. Sergio had some issues earlier. He left the session at the start of qualifying, but he got back in. Obviously, you know, he set his lap time. But I hope this isn't too bad, because there we go, we're starting soon. That scared me for a moment. I thought, hang on, we're not going in, but we are. Got 20 seconds to go. It's gonna be a good one. Any predictions for you, Sappy, this race?
I feel like Simon Lekomsky is going to do very well.
Ooh.
Keeping an eye on them. Managed to commentate on them a few times before, back when I was in F3, and they lit up the tracks. On their day, they set the track on fire. Like it was a spectacle. So hopefully they keep that momentum and they can bring some of that heat into the race today. But here we are, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Track is hot, and we are away. It looks like a really good getaway from Harvey Cohen, immediately getting the jump on left-it, heading into turn 1 and through to center S. Felipe Sousa making a big move, along with Mark Scholl, PSR, Nick, and big shuffles. The Ferraris are seeming to diverge from one another. Felipe Sousa, Jack Humphreys down at the bottom of the grid. What's going on?
Yep, big collision. I think that was Cameron might have been involved in something there, along with Ogiano. Lukomski's been overtaken by Leroy Brown in towards turn 4, and Simon's still going to try and fight back, but hasn't got enough to get him. But really nice start from Harvey, getting himself into the lead even before turn 1. You know, he just got a way better start, probably something to do with reaction to Anders just having more grip. Simon nearly hitting the back of Leroy Brown there, going into turn 7, and you can see how close they are. Had a collision, I think that might be Jack Humphreys, currently 3.5 seconds off. Cameron and Bogdan fighting down at P13. Still side by side going into turn 11 now. Look at these two. Really, really fighting for position here. And they're going to start to lose time. But Cameron gets a move on Bogdan. Bogdan tried to get a bit of a switch back, but he's had a massive snap coming out of John Sow. So now he's stuck down in 13th. And he's not going to be able to fight for position anytime soon, I don't think. Harvey, quickest time of 15.5. We've also got Tony Richey into the pit lane, along with Lars Butterman, so they must have got some damage there. I don't know if Jack has got damage as well. Yes, he has. So there must have been a big collision down at turn 1. I couldn't see all because I was focused on the top 2. But Yannick Schmidt on the back of Jay going in towards turn 4. We've also got a move there from, I think it's Mark, on the back of Coda de Baca going into turn 4 as well. These guys are so close, and everyone's going to be eager to get some moves on these first couple laps before DRS comes into play, because that's when you're going to be in this long DRS train. That's when you're going to start struggling to get some overtakes in. So everyone wants to make an overtake in the first couple of laps just to see, I mean, just to get some more positions which can benefit them near the end of the race. We're going to have a look at the tyres. And everyone's on hard. Oh, that's a big spin. Conor de Baca's round. He's lost his front wing. That's then at turn 8. He's either made a contact with someone or he's just spun it on his own. So that's Conor de Baca's race already over. Big shame from him. His teammate currently up in 4th. So it's not all over for Aston Martin just yet.
Yeah, he's really sort of hitting it in really quite rough and early days. Of course, I have to head back to the pits, get a replacement for that front wing, and almost pray for a wild card in the form of a safety car, but it's not looking good, I have to be honest. Looking up to say, we've got Sergio Sobrino and PSR Nick going side by side through turns 1 and 2. They're barging and they make contact and they're into one another. PSR Nick goes round while Sergio Sobrino manages to survive relatively unscathed.
Yep, well, talking of collisions, Andre Molnar has made perfect advantage of these. He's now in P11, he started last. So Andre's gained 9 positions. Obviously 4 people have pitted. We've had Nick and I think with Sergio fighting. Sergio's probably got damage. Yes, he has, as Andre moves past Sergio and into the points. Ballas Palmer, Andre's teammate, also getting past Sergio now. Sergio's I don't know what happened between those two. It could have been a bit of desync, but it's not really good for them at all, Nick and Sergio. They was looking really quick. You know, they had some good pace in, some solid points, but unfortunately a bit of eagerness from both has caused them some mishaps down at turn 3. Philip Sousa getting past Sergio. Also we've got Gian Pietro Giano just on the back of Sergio now, just coming out of turn 13, 14. So a big shame for Sergio, and he'll be into the pit lane. Mercedes having a really bad start to the season. Obviously, Tony's already pitted for some damage, and Sergio's now going to be pitting for damage. He'll probably come out near P19, maybe even further back. So, you know, Mercedes definitely aren't in a position to be fighting for any points or championship this time soon. But Sergio's gone to the softs.
Well, so I think at this point, the strategy is, well, I've got this clean air in front of me. I might as well go on a tyre that has really high pace, see if I can make up some of that deficit, fulfill my tyre requirement, and then, of course, take it from there. Just trying to, on a dime, make the most of the situation. I think it's a good call up to a point, but again, a lot of these backliner drivers, say as Conor de Baca heads in and retires in the pit lane, I think the prayer is for a safety car. There's really, short of that, not any way this sort of back 5 can recover their race.
Yeah, definitely. A safety car, you know, it can help them get back into some points, but at the moment, you know, it's not really possible at all for any of those to get into the pit lane, you know. Jack depending on people have battles and cause damage, ESC might be able to gain some positions because it will be very difficult, but possibly could get to the end. I'm not quite sure with Tyredeg around this track. But Lars, Tony and Sergio, there's no way they're going to make it to the end at all, so they'll have to pit again, meaning they're ultimately a pit stop behind, even if everyone else pits. I'm just on board with the Hasses now. They're getting very close, in towards turn 4. Ballas gets past Andre, and they're still going to keep fighting. Last time we saw teammates fighting, it was... who was it? It was Alonso and Ocon into turn 4. We had a bit of damage this time. The two Hasses go through unscathed. Ballas into P10. They're going to have to try and get back into that DRS of Cameron, as currently the Hasses are going to start leading a little battle, a little train of their own. Bogdan, it's not got too good pace. You know, he started off well, lost a couple of positions on the first 2 laps, and now he's seeming to lose time to the Hasses ahead. And let's just hope the Hasses are playing team game and not going too fighty. Looking at the top of the grid, Yannick Schmidt, he had a pretty lonely start, didn't he, really? He went side by side with Daniel in turn 2. And apart from that, he just kind of sat there, you know, in the DRS and just had himself pulled wrong. So that's really good for the top 5. Not getting into any battles that could end in disaster just yet, because it could all happen in the next few laps. You never know. But yeah, it's a good start to the race. Obviously, 4 people pitted, which isn't ideal for them, but safety cars can come along, anything can happen. You ever know, we might even see a bit of rain near the end.
Yeah, you never really know. I mean, with a lot of these drivers, at the top end of the field, your priority is basically to stay in that DRS range, but otherwise conserve your resources. I mean, you look at Cohen and Lefted. They've both basically got full batteries, yet they control the pace of the race almost completely. That's like the perfect scenario that you want to be in. A little bit further behind, say, JSD, Yannick Schmidt, and Daniel Kjeldsen, they're all sort of, to a degree, managing their battery. Kjeldsen's got a full battery, he's ready.
I have had some issues. Indeed. Is everything good?
I'd say, well, the race is still running, and of course we can keep you via audio on the play-by-play.
Oh.
We'll get you quite back in before long. Not to worry, my friend. But in the meantime, I can keep you informed with the audio play-by-play and keep the stream semi-entertained as Felipe Sosa on the back of Bogdan Molovan battle for P12 right now. We'll see if we can hop that in there.
It's not ideal at all.
Not ideal at all, but you know what? We move, we keep things moving, and we do our best with the situation.
So back in now.
We will be getting you back in no time, mate.
Yeah, that was an odd one. I did have something come up on the stream saying there was a bit of disconnection, but that's weird because it's all back now. So, yeah, I think we're good to go again.
Brief hiccup, but we're back on the train. And speaking of the train, DRS train of P1 through P14 completely engulfed in this big old conga line of $1 million machinery.
Yeah, indeed. The DRS train seems to be getting even closer and closer. Everyone's now within 2 or 3 tenths, whereas before there was 6 or 7 tenths behind. But you know, we need to start getting some moves made, and that will probably be through drivers making mistakes. But you know, unless that, we're not going to see drivers getting any moves done, because Lefty will probably be having the plan of just to stay behind Harvey. And actually, no. Speaking of overtakes, we saw Yannick up the inside of Jay there, but you know, not quite close enough to get a move done. But yeah, Lefty's plan will be just to stay behind Harvey, have the DRS, leech off that, and then obviously before the pit stop stage, it can all change. But yeah, that's what the issue is for Jay as well, because Jay will be wanting to get past, but obviously, you know, Lefty's not going to budge. So Jay can't really do anything. Then he's at pressure from Yannick, and Yannick's then under pressure of Daniel, and it goes all the way down to where the battle ends down at P12, where Bogdan's just outside that 1 second to Andre. But yeah, it's nice to see the Hasses back into the battle. There was about 1.4 seconds behind about 2 laps ago, but now back into that DRS train, and the train just gets bigger and bigger. Bogdan gets himself back into the train as well, so we've got a train now all the way down to P14 with Ogiano at the back of it.
It looks like at the moment drivers are sort of biding their time, getting the life out of those hards. If I was at the front of the grid, I would honestly be a bit more aggressive with my ERS. Say a lot of these drivers at the sort of P1 through P6 range are basically sat at 100% for a significant amount of time, and given that I have control of race pace, I wouldn't be remiss to see if I can get a little bit of a breakaway, because of course you do have less dirty air with these sort of new spec regulations. And if you can remove that slipstream element as well, then you could start to make a bit of a break.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at Jay, he seems to have a little bit more, a little bit less ERS than the others. He's done around 89%. Jay is just getting himself back into 80%. He used a lot. Going down towards turn 1, he was at about 65% at one point. So obviously, the harvesting rate here is really nice. So you can get your ERS back easily. But look at Yannick. He's really pushing, wanting to get past. Jay will stay on board in here. I don't think he's going to be close enough into turn 1. But we could possibly be seeing close enough in towards turn 4. And you can see, he's really pushing now. Daniel's lost time. He's 6/10 behind. Also got Pietro and Caesar fighting down at turn 1. Pietro in towards P13. But yeah, Yannick's really wanted to get through. You can see by his aggression and just how close he's behind. Daniel's not burning any ERS because he doesn't need to. He's sitting in the P5. It's a really good result if you can get it. It's a first round. And there's no point, mate. Obviously you want to make some good moves, but there's no point taking really high risks, which could end you in DNFing or getting damage, because that's when it can, it can put you at a disadvantage for the championship. Obviously, I'd say the top 5 or 6 here are probably going to look at fighting for the championship, especially Harvey and Left in the front. So they're not going to want to make anything disastrous happen in the first race, because that that could destroy the championship's hopes. We've only got 12 rounds. So, it's not like a normal 18-20 race season. There's less time for you to make the points up.
Yeah, there is really a sort of crunch point that we often find. And in the case of Daniel, P5 right now, but he doesn't have to push. Like you said, he's in a very safe position, and he can effectively watch the fighting that goes on ahead and then pick off the scraps.
Into turn 1. We have Pietro getting past Bogdan there, so I just cut you off there, Sapik. But Pietro into P12 now. But the issue is, Bogdan will have DRS going down towards turn 4. We've also got Philip Saveson right in behind Bogdan as well. And Bogdan sticks behind Pietro just for now. And you can see, look at these guys getting really close. And Philip Saveson right on the back of Bogdan coming up towards turn 6 and 7. We'll be able to see if you get a little bit of a battle between these. Oh, and Bogdan's round! He's lost the rear going into turn 6 completely. You could see his back end just slip out. Now he's down 14th. He'll probably lose positions, possibly to Nick and Sergio, depending on how quick he can recover. And actually, no, he'll recover quite perfectly. But the thing is, that will cause more tyre deg. The tyres will wear a little bit more because obviously spin rame's not ideal, especially when you go at about 200 kilometres an hour. So that's put Philip and Pietro a bit of a relax. Oh, Philip having a bit of a big slide coming out the final corner there. Turn 12, and you can see Pietro's going to be fighting to get back into that DRS to Andre, because it's not ideal being stuck outside and leading your own little train with just 2 drivers. And we're actually going to go up towards Jay now. You can see, look how close he is to the back of Lefty. I think Lefty's made a bit of a mistake coming in towards turn 2, but Lefty's able to use a little bit more ERS and just keep ahead. So that's that done and dusted. No move from Jay going into turn 4. Jack Humphries, however, has got a penalty. 2 seconds. We're going to go and switch to Tony Richet, who's looking to get past his teammate, which he does. I think his teammate just lets him past. No, it's the best option to do. So Tony into 16th now. Sergio and Lars just getting involved with the battle just behind. We could possibly see Lars wanted to get through on his teammates.
Looking like it's up ahead. Sorry to cut you off. It's a big snap from Lefted up in P2, and that's got Jay right on his tail now. Managed to recover quite quickly. Good damage control there from the AlphaTauri. Luckily has a bit about 20% extra battery compared to Jay also, meaning that he does have the means to recover, but that has put him just on the cusp of DRS range with themselves and Harvey Cohen, and I think Cohen's going on full push. 60% battery. They are getting as much of a gap as they can. If they can deny that DRS, they are effectively home free. So with such an opportunity there, they had to pounce on it. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to lock it in fully. Lefted managed to reel himself back in to within 7/10, but of course he's fending off JSD, and with 70% left in the tank, that advantage that they had so strong is no longer looking as viable.
No. We saw coming out of turn 12 as Joe was on the back of Lefty. Also, we had Daniel on the back of Yannick. So I don't know if Yannick made a little bit of a mistake coming into the end of the second sector, but Daniel was right on the tails, about 1.5 tenths coming out of John Sow. But yeah, these top 5 are definitely going to be in the fight for the win. I can't, I think Harvey's probably looking the strongest out of them all. But second to fifth, I can't really. Second to sixth, actually, I can't really say out of them who would, come on the podium, because any of those could. Because people might try for an overcut and undercut. I'm not quite sure what works best around here. These drivers will be trying to test those things out. They've probably done a little bit of testing behind the scenes work, trying to see which works better for when the pit stop phase comes. I'm not sure when it'll probably be around lap 18, I presume. Maybe a little bit later, depends on what the drivers want to do. But I know another issue is, I was watching the Tier 1 stream last night, and I know apparently the esports build had a different marker board or something when going into the pit lane. So some of these people might have played on the esports build here, so they've got to hope they don't, end up breaking a little bit later or earlier, depending where it was on the other build, because that could give them the 5 seconds. I think about 5 or 6 drivers in Tier 1 had that issue last night in Tier 1. But look at the back of Yannick, yet again, right in the back of Jay. And Daniel also getting involved. Leroy is sticking within the second, but he's just sticking about 5 or 6 tenths back, not getting too involved in this little battle. And then you've also got Simon, Mark, Cameron all sitting there, not really having much to do. Oh, that's Nick there going slow. I think he let them all through. Going into turn 4, he slowed down along the straight. Raposta let all the others through into turn 4. But yeah, P8 to P10, they're just sitting there, not really doing much, just sitting in this train. Obviously, everyone here will want to get points. Everyone in the top 10 will get points if they stay there. So it's just about being able to keep up in that top 10. And obviously, some people, Pietro, Philip, might be looking to get themselves into the top 10, to get past the 2 passes after the pit stop phase.
Yeah, just waiting for that pit stop phase. I think we'll see just after the halfway point of the race. I think a driver's going to really try and stretch out these hards, because even though the hards are relatively low speed in terms of compounds, if they can get onto those mediums and really run them out over the course of the race, like run them in that optimum window and experience a bit less of the drop-off, I think they're going to try and opt to go for that and sort of go for a 1-stop here. Of course, we had Sergio Sabrino heading into the pits now, coming off those softs after 11 laps, and they're going to be going onto the mediums. We might see them having to change compounds near the end of the race, but given that they're in P18, I think they might just sort of be deciding, right, this is a race of survival, just get to the end. If anything happens that goes my way, like a safety car or a VSC, then great. But otherwise, at this point, we run our own run, and we just try and stay out of trouble.
Yeah. And for me personally, if I'm looking at a standing sheet, I'd rather have 18th or 0 points written on there than a DNF. A DNF it seems worse. Daniel Pitt actually in the Alfa Romeo, he'll come out, I think, just ahead of his teammate. Maybe that's a bit of work between the 2 Alphas. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, obviously, I'd rather have at least evidence of finishing the race rather than a DNF, because it looks a bit worse. But Bogdan and Daniel, we'll have a little look at those two down towards 13th and 14th. They've come out very close. I presumed at first maybe it was Bogdan being able to help Daniel get a bit of DRS, but I don't know if that will be the plan. But we'll have to see. It'd be a good plan, but at the end of the day, I suppose, Bogdan might be running his own race, but we'll have to see over the next couple of laps what happens.
Time will definitely tell. I think it might be a very aggressive undercut potentially, but might be a little bit of wishful thinking in this case. Swapping off relatively early compared to the rest of the field when so many others are continuing to push on the hards. Maybe trying to see if they can work with their teammate, get a bit of clean air, and let these front runners battle. Because, we have seen Daniel run that very quiet race otherwise. And saying that, it looks like Harvey, Lefted, and Jay are all starting to get into very close proximity.
We're going to go on towards Lefty. Harvey. Oh, actually, no, Lefty's got past Harvey. I didn't see that one. Going in towards turn, I think it was in down towards turn 4. I was on board with Bogdan and Daniel. But yeah, left into the lead. Harvey in P2. Harvey might want to just stick behind now to get a bit of DRS. But we'll see. Yannick and Jay, yet again a little bit close, coming down towards turn 8 and 9. So yeah, the pit stop phase will probably be in the next couple of laps. That's when we'll probably see the top 5, top 6 decide to pit onto some new tyres. Obviously, there will be the mediums. I can't see them pitting onto softs. On the back of Tony now. He's on the back of Lars, coming out of turn 4, up towards turn 6 and 7 now. And I think we'll see much of happening between those two, but we'll keep on board with them for a little short while. let's have a look back at the top, guys. Is anyone going to vote to pit? Yes.
It's going to be Yannick and Jay.
I'm on board with Harvey yet again. Coming out of turn 2 now in towards cover d'assault. Is he going to make a move on Lefty? Let's have a look. He's using his battery. He's using a lot of his battery. And I think he's... No, he was going to look for it, but he's not going to gain enough. Leroy, however, is out of the 1 second. Daniel goes quickest at 109.2. Yeah, Leroy's out of the 1 second, which helps these top 2 now to just pull a little bit away. Unless Leroy's able to get back in. And Leroy's actually pushing. He's able to get himself back into that 1 second gap for now. On 27% battery. So they're all using battery now, knowing it's the best thing to do. Catch back up to the person ahead, get back into the DRS zones, and so forth. Simon as well, on the back of Leroy, is stuck behind just about 4/10. So it would be nice if Simon could get some DRS if Leroy doesn't, because that could also get a move in towards turn 1. Obviously, the Hasses and the Alfa Romeos are so close together, and maybe even the McLarens. It's going to be difficult for them to both... Well, they won't pit on the same lap because, you know, they're going to end up getting held up, which isn't ideal. So we could possibly see one of the Alphas pitting this lap. Yes, we do. We also see... Actually, the whole top 4 pitting. So Alfa going for a... Alfa Romeo going for... sorry, no, AlphaTauri going for a double stack. Let's see if it works. Should do, but we'll have to see.
We'll have to wait and see if it goes out in the favour. The hards are only 50%.
Oh, he's
so
been held up.
48. Yeah, that is a hold up. The double stack is really shooting Simon Komsky right now. But really, it's like, given the rest of the field, I think he could have held on for a lap.
Daniel!
I think it was just sort of an instinct.
Into the lead. We'll keep on board with Lefty. He's just got him passed by Jay. But look at Daniel's undercut. It's worked massively. 2 seconds. He's got to Jay. Yannick getting past Lefty as well. Harvey now down to P8. Bogdan's in the mix at P9. I think he's on old tyres though. But this is interesting. We've also got a Haas round at turn 7. I think that is Andre Molnar.
Great.
He's dropped it, which is really bad for him indeed. But, you know, this is not good for Simon, is it? He's staying in 13th. I don't know why he tried to do the double stack, but it definitely didn't work.
I think it was just sort of a instinctive decision. I think it sort of realised and looked at the rest of the field and said, okay, everyone's pitting. I need to follow the cadence of the field. Otherwise, I'm going to be out of luck. If I try and overcut a lap, it's more risky. Almost not realising that Lefted is going to be in there. But by the time they committed to the pit lane, I think it was too late.
Yeah, definitely. We look at the joint top 3 now. A minute ago, it was Lefted, Harvey, Jay. Now it's Daniel, Jay, Yannick. So it's changed completely just through the pit stop phase. And if people aren't prepared enough and have got the pace up to start making overtakes, you know, the top 3 will probably stay the same by the end of the race. Unless Yannick is going to try and get a move on Jay, because Jay's going to have to try and get into the back of the DRS of Daniel. So this is where Yannick wants to push and get himself into P2. And you can see, you know, Jay's not pushing too hard, and he's not... Well, he's gaining a little bit on Daniel, but he's not gaining enough really to get some DRS soon. So he'll definitely want to push a little bit more, get himself back into the 1 second. Lefty, he's just sitting 7/10 behind, so he's working on getting himself back probably to the 4-5-10 mark to the back of Yannick. And Harvey has lost a lot here. He's actually going to be net P5. Nick takes the fastest lap at 1:08.7, but yeah, it's not good for Harvey, not good for Lefted, but it's good for the top 3.
Yeah, those
Which
top
is Daniel,
3
Jay,
are
Yannick.
really looking very sort of perky at the moment. And say Andre Molnar heading into the pits now and sort of completing the transition for the top drivers to assume their places. I think Daniel's undercut worked massively well, but also having to be careful of the tyres. Dips the front right into the grass a little bit, heading into the first corner. But yeah, already 18% wear on those mediums. So I think they've done a great job of the strategy so far, but it might be short-lived.
Definitely. You just got to hope you can keep it, you know, because the tyre deck, yeah, it's 2 laps, but 2 laps can mean a lot at the end of the race, you know, when we're on lap 34 or 35. So, you know, Jay's going to just work on staying the DRS for now. Yannick's going to be looking to either get past Jay or just stay where he is. But Harvey and Lefty are the biggest losers in this little battle here. And Simon, but, you know, that was more Simon's fault of his own. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for those guys, but it is what it is. And Bogdan, we'll have a look at the tyre ages, actually. Bogdan is on 20 lap old hards, so yeah. So I thought then Bogdan might be in the look for some points, but he won't be because he's on really, really old hards. Looking at Simon Lukomsky on the back of Bogdan now, just 3 tenths behind. Bogdan's losing lots of pace. Everyone's on new mediums. He's on old hards. So we'll have to see if he's able to defend. He'll probably pit this lap. We'll have a little look. Does he pit? No, he doesn't. He's going to battle Simon going down in towards turn 1. He stays ahead. No, sorry. Simon gets ahead. Bogdan stays just behind. We've also got Gianpietro getting involved just behind Bogdan. We'll be able to see if he's able to get a move down towards turn 4. But this is where Bogdan now will be holding the pack up on his old tyres. And, you know, he's got nothing really to play for here. So he might as well just try and have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of a battle before he ends up pitting. Because he's in P10 now. He's got to pit. He'll come out, what, maybe even behind Sergio if he's not careful. And you can see this is bad for Gianpietro because look how much time he's losing being stuck behind Bogdan. He's lost 6-7 tenths. Oh, and he goes up for the move into turn 8. Really nice there from Gianpietro. Puts himself into P10. They've also got Ballas Palmer, who'll be looking next to take a move on Bogdan. Yes, he does. Into turn 10. Gets through on Bogdan. We've also got Philip Sousa on the back of Bogdan as well, coming through turn 11 in towards John Sao now. He's going to go up the inside into John Sao. Takes P12 off Bogdan, pushes Bogdan a little bit wide. Bogdan's still going to stay in it now as they come up towards the start-finish straight.
Call me out for my tinfoil hat if you must, but I think that this is pure team play by Bogdan here, saying, okay, I'm in my own race, I'm basically out of the running, let me disrupt the field so that I could potentially help my teammate, seeing as he's up on P1 right now.
Yeah, well, we've seen it happen before. You know, we've seen it happen in esports back at, where was it now? Oh, where was it? Japan, sorry, where Jake Benham held off to help Jarno. Obviously, Jarno spun, so he didn't really pay off. But you know, it's all part of the plan, and it wouldn't put me past Daniel and Bogdan trying that. Both in ET8, so I presume they speak, you know, fairly often. Both in Alfa Romeo, so it makes sense. I'd like to comment for all ET8 people in the chat. It's P1, P2, P3 for ET8, so they're doing really good in terms of teams. Obviously, it doesn't really matter what team you're in here because this is all about helping your teammate in the opposite car. In the car, and also about, you know, get yourself to the top for the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, and looking around the field, speaking of teammates, Team Shizou, Tony Richet, tyres absolutely cooked. 21 lap old mediums. Rear right, which is the tyre that gets hit the hardest, is 80%, and I think we've just seen the immediate effects of that as he loses the rear heading into the third sector. Yeah. He's out in the runoff.
Puncture.
But yeah, it's completely cooked, that tyre right there. Needs to head in. And usually 50 to 60% is where you get that balancing point of tyre dead versus wall off. And oh, look at that. He's managing to keep the car running somehow. It's not completely terminal damage, but there's carbon fibre strewn over the track. Now he really has no choice but to head into that pit lane.
Yeah, he's into the pits now. That is Tony's race over. You know, it was always horrible him having that puncture, but there's, you know, that final sector with a puncture or even in the wet, it's always horrible in, you know, in the wet and when you got punctures. So that was always a matter of when he was going to end up crashing, not if he was going to crash. And but just hard from the session. He's got nothing else running in this race, so he's retired. His teammate, however, has moved up to P15. So considering he was last at one point, he's 15th. He's moved up 5 positions, so it isn't the end of the world for him. But you know, Lefted and Harvey will now want to be starting to push. They was leading the race, looking absolutely above everyone else in pace, and now they're standing 4th and 5th still.
I'll say it, in a lot of ways, it's a game of rhythm. And for these top guys, they kind of want to, at this point, just match the rhythm of the drivers around them. Say, Lefted and Harvey, probably the biggest horses in the fight because they started at the top. They're just matching each other's rhythm. They know that the drivers up ahead are 1 and 3 laps older on the mediums, respectively. If they can pace themselves, manage their ERS, then that means when they start to experience their tyre drop-off, these guys are ready to pounce right in, full battery, all guns blazing, and see about getting those podiums or even a race win. Yeah,
you know, it's drivers don't, like I said before, drivers don't want to take too much risk, but they want to make sure they have that element of trust in the other competitors, that they can have a battle for position. You know, these top 5, I've seen them a lot. So, you know, and they're good drivers, they know how to battle properly. Looking at Jay, actually, he's looking for a move on Daniel. and he gets past Daniel going in towards turn 1. So Jay into the lead. Yannick also gaining, not enough to get a move, but he's now sitting in P3 just behind Daniel. Question is, can Jay hold off Daniel going down the route of pasta? And yeah, this is getting interesting. And this is where the drivers are going to start pushing. Daniel's pushing now. He's going to try and get him into turn 4. No, he stays behind, but he's right behind, less than a 10. So now you can see this is where the drivers will be pushing. From now on till the end, they'll be pushing for positions. And this is when we can see people, possibly like Leroy and Cameron, try and capitalise off mistakes from drivers. You know, there's a chance they could have spins and, you know, contact damage, whatever, in these laps. So this is where Leroy and Cameron, who are sitting behind, can just try and hopefully benefit off this and maybe gain 1 or 2 positions. Because as clean as the drivers are, you can't always determine what the car's going to do going into a corner. But this is, you know, Jay and Daniel will be fighting for the top spot. Lefted and Harvey will be fighting to get back through to the top two spots. And Yannick has really been around that third, fourth place around, you know, the whole race. He's not really gained or lost anything during the pit stop phase.
Yeah, hasn't really got much to be said in terms of, say, time losses. But one thing's for sure, say, Harvey Cohen potentially eyeing up a move for a split second on Lefted, but ended up conceding to a little bit of a dummy there. I think in terms of Daniel's case here, they have the ERS to go for some pushes, at least put the pressure on Jay up at the front. But I think the key point here is that ERS is just as much a defensive tool as it is an attacking tool. And I think that's sometimes what people can often forget. It's just because it's called an overtake button doesn't mean it's exclusively for overtaking. It means that you can also fend off and defend your position if you have a bit of surplus.
Indeed, definitely. And Harvey is on 25% battery, so he's not in a good position in terms of ERS. We look at head, Lefty's on 25%, Yannick's on 50, Daniel on 70, and Jay on 60. So 4th, 5th, and I think Leroy's on low as well. Yeah, no, so just 4th and 5th Lefty and Harvey are on hardly any ERS, so they're going to really struggle being able to attack now, because the ERS makes a real big factor in whether you're able to get past one or not. But looking here, Lefted, however, going to look for a move on Yannick. Gained a lot there, going up towards the start-finish straight.
Yeah, but the problem is, Lefted's fired everything at this move now. He's literally cooked his entire ERS reserve to stay on the tail of the rest of the field. And because Harvey is a bit further behind, but he's going to eventually catch up anyway, and he's going to keep that 20% battery. The problem is, at this level of racing, where everyone's separated by such fine margins, ERS can be the big decider. And if you throw 20-25% into a move and it doesn't work out, you are really left out of pocket. You're going to have to spend a few laps minimum recovering before you can go again.
Definitely. We've only got 8 laps left, and this is where people need to start either thinking of people need to start thinking what their plan is in terms of where they want to finish. You know, Harvey and Lefty will be thinking, do we want to stick where we are? Do we want to get into the podium, or do we want to fight for the win? Obviously, fight for a win is going to be difficult, but you know, they're going to be thinking, what do I want to do? Because then they can start playing, right, do I burn the ERS? Do I save the ERS? You know, do I push now and get through? Or do I wait and save my IRS until the last lap and then go for an ultimate push? But we've got Harvey and Lefty fighting towards turn 1 now. Harvey round the outside into turn 1. Look how close they are. Nearly a bit of a Max and Hamilton situation there. But Harvey does the clever thing and backs out going in towards turn 2. And yet again it stays 4th and 5th for Harvey and Lefty.
Yeah, this is do or die time for the both of them. They've decided, right, we're running out of time here. We can't rely on the tyre deg difference. It's not going to be enough. These front runners have so much ERS in the tank, but we are struggling down at the back here. So they've decided they're going to put everything into these next few laps. They're going to run it right to the red line, see if they can keep up as best they can, and hope that there is something or some form of fighting. We're saying that left, a big snap heading through. And coming out turn 9, it's really got to keep a handle on that car, especially considering the terms of tyre deg. 37% on the mediums, and for the front runners, you've got Daniel up at 48. So start to see a bit of a pace drop off in these next 5 laps or so, and I think that short of keeping it on the rear, that's what they're counting on.
Definitely. And the thing is, we'll go on board with Leroy because he's getting lots on Harvey going into someone. But the thing is, with these drivers now, at the top 5, top 6 fighting, they're going to lose a little bit of time going into turn 1, a little bit of time going into turn 4. This is allowing Cameron and Mark to also gain. And Simon, look, you know, we've got the top 10. Philippe earlier was about 3, 4, 5 seconds behind. Now he's gaining. Look at this here between Harvey and Leroy into turn 4. They're getting really close, and they're still going to be carrying the battle through turn 5, and they're going to be side by side up in towards turn 6. Let's see who will be ahead. Leroy gets ahead for now, but Harvey's still going to be pushing at him in towards turn 7 and 8. And Leroy, I think, has got that move and puts himself into P5. Leroy must have caught Harvey a little bit napping there, going down to towards turn 4. He's used a little bit of his ERS to gain, get past, and now he's going to be looking to secure a P5 and stay ahead of Harvey. Looking into the start of the race, I didn't think Harvey would be looking at a possible P6. So really big shame for Harvey, and that's all, you know, it's all due to luck in the pit stops as well. You know, Harvey pitted later. It's put him 3, 4, 5 positions down where he should be.
Yeah, it's looking like a rough one for Harvey. And this is what we said about the ERS difference, is that Harvey ran out of juice halfway through that battle, coming out turn 4, completely out of juice. And Leroy still had 20% left, and he used that to great effect to effectively lock in the move, lock in that P5.
Yeah.
So it's a very high-risk strategy, running your battery to the absolute edge. You want to keep a little bit in reserve, just in case you get sprung on like that. And of course, when you are sort of left in that position, no battery, no means to defend, the best you can do is hold your positioning on track and hope that you can eventually take the position back.
Yeah, definitely. But really good from Leroy, you know, into the top 5. He wants that, and it's, you know, he's worked for it all race. He's just been sitting around P6, P7, and he's, you know, he's benefited off that thing with Harvey, got himself into 5th, and you never know, he could be looking to take 4th off Lefty, because Lefty again has used all his ERS. And he's gained a little bit, so he's saving up, possibly for an attack on the final few laps. Yannick is on 73%. Andre has got another 3-second time penalty, but look at the top 3. 70, 75, 68. They're on absolutely the triple, quadruple more ERS than lefted Leroy and Harvey. So this is, you know, these 3 at the top is where we're going to see the proper battles fighting for that lead. Going, you know, I think we're on 32 out of 36. We'll see battles around 34 onwards. We've had a sprint from Mercedes at Sergio Sobrino. He's down at exit of turn 9. But keeping on board with Daniel now. He's gaining on the back of Jay. Does he go through him? No. He's just getting right behind. He's like, yep, nope, I'm going to trick it. I'm not going to make the move. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. So this is what, Daniel's able to put Jay under a little bit more pressure. And he's like, you know, I'm still behind you. And I'll be looking for a move soon. So just get ready. So this could get interesting.
Yeah, I really think the mind games is half the battle often. Of course, your on-track skill and your control of the car is one thing, but knowing how to pressure your opponents, knowing how to really put on those mind games and sort of get in your opponent's head, that goes a long way in terms of your attacking and defending. I think around lap 34, we're going to see that switch start to flick in drivers' heads. So these front runners on 70, 80-odd% ERS, we're going to see that switch start to flick, and we're going to really see them peel away from the likes of lefted Leroy and Harvey here, who in fact, Harvey has managed to recover about 30% of his ERS and managed to get on par with lefted and Leroy. But I think these next 3 all know full well that come lap 34, these top 3 are going to run away.
Definitely. I'm on board with Yannick, and Yannick was gaining on Daniel just coming in towards turn 1. He's lost a little bit of time coming out of turn 2, but look at Daniel, he's getting right close to Jay yet again. 1.5 tenths going into turn 4. So this is going to be interesting between these top 3, and at the moment I can't say who's going to win and who's going to come 2nd and 3rd, because they can all, you know, Yannick could benefit from a battle between the top 2, get himself into 1st. Daniel could lose it to Yannick. Jay could lose it to both of them, put himself down to P3, so absolutely anything could happen. And then again, we can't really count out lefted Leroy and Harvey. At the start of the race, it was like, yeah, it's between lefted and Harvey. Halfway through, it's getting more people involved. And now we've even got Leroy involved, and possibly even Cameron and Mark and Simon. You know, they're all in this battle. And depending on what risks people take in these next couple of laps could determine who's going to gain positions and who's going to lose. Harvey, yet again, is gaining on Leroy, and he's going to make a move into turn 1. Look at that. Harvey has to go off the track a little bit there to get a move past Leroy, but takes a position into turn 1. We've also got Jay and Daniel fighting. Jay keeps holding the lead for now, and we're looking at the behind of Daniel. There we are. We're looking at the front of Daniel yet again. As the fight down the Retta Raposa now in towards turn 4. But look at Jay is able to burn a little bit and get past. Daniel thought about it, backed off at the last second, back down to P2.
This is what we were saying, lap 34 is when everyone's going to come alive. Daniel initially burned a little bit in lap 33 to get on par with Jay and Yannick, but now this is where the gloves are really off. And Daniel needs it in particular. 64% max wear on the medium, on the rear right. That tire in particular getting hammered really hard here, but 64%. And we saw that a little bit because they had a bit of a snap coming out into the third sector. So they really need to put that extra ERS to good use if they want to stay on the tail of Jay. He's doing a great job keeping the pressure on, throwing a bit of the dummy heading into turn 3. We're seeing another snap coming out third sector. He's just getting impatient on the throttle, but he knows full well that he's out of time, and he needs to make this move basically now. He's putting everything into this move. He's going to see, is he going to cook? Is he cooking? He goes to the right, goes to the left, down the inside, through the center S. He's right side by side with that Williams. Doesn't get it done, though. He has the ERS, though. He has the activation zone. Can he get it done? It's going to be no battery. Jay is going to have 20%. He's going to have the means to defend. Is he going to fire it down the inside? No. He's going to be keeping it onto the rear. He has to recover from that move.
Meanwhile,
he put everything into it and it doesn't work.
Yeah, we got Leroy and Mark fighting down in towards turn 6 now. These two got really close into turn 4. We had Cameron getting past Leroy, Mark getting past Leroy, and Leroy was also trying to fight Mark going out of turn 4. We've also got a ghosty car in between all this as well. And then we got Simon just behind those. So this is getting really interesting. The ghosty car's probably not making it any better. Vanahas round, that's Andrew Molnar, then at the exit turn 3. But this is getting interesting now on the final lap of the race. Just about to start lap 36. This is where it all matters. This is about where the moves. This is the only time, you know, your move is, your position is set in stone.
Yeah, keep an eye on Yannick Schmidt. He's going to be about to head off for a final move along the start-finish straight. He's got 60% battery to burn. He's got it around Daniel. He's still got 30% left in the tank to Jay's 20. They're both on the same tyre life. So this is really a battle of wits, battle of strategy.
Mark.
There's someone down as Mark Schluter out on P12, but Yannick is going to keep going, keep that momentum. He's going to be around the outside of Jay. They're both going to go side by side heading through turn 4. Jay's going to retain the position. Both of them absolutely running their batteries to the red line. It's not going to be enough for Yannick. He's going to keep Jay honest. Gianpietro out as well. It's all kicking off.
It is, and Harvey right on the back of Lefted now. They actually touch, but Gianpietro had a collision. I think it was with Mark Schluter coming in towards turn 4. He's out of the race now, so that's a really big shame for Gianpietro. But look at these lot. They're getting close. Lefted and Harvey closer than ever now. 1.5 tenths, 1 tenth. We'll keep on board with Harvey quickly. If he's able to get a move, no, he's not. We'll go back on board with Jez. I think he's going to take the win. Coming out of the final corner now, out of turn 13 into turn 14, and it can all change actually going towards the line with the RS, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And Jay wins the first round of the PC Tier 2 Championship at Brazil. Really nice there. Lefted's out!
Wait, Lefted is out!
He's at the collision
I
down.
can't believe this!
It looks like he had a collision past. Hang on. So he's crashed past the start line, and it's put him as a DNF. Lefted's out of the session. Harvey takes 4th. Cameron takes 5th. Leroy into 6th. This is madness. I want to know if anyone in the chat here has been speaking with Lefted. Let us know what happened, because I was on board with Jay. Lefted's car was past the finish line when it said he was DNF, so that's really weird. Harvey's got himself into 4th, but that was an ending for sure. And I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so that's why I sound like I'm croaking, because my throat is literally dying here. But that was an odd ending, to say the least.
Yeah, really not sure what happened there. I couldn't tell you how that was all panning out. I don't really even have words, to be honest.
I'm going to get the legendary phone, and we're going to have a look in the Discord chat. That's where it'll unfold. We'll be able to figure out what happened with Lefted there. Maybe it was a bit of... I don't know what it was, actually. We're going to go on to the PC Tier 2 chat, so I'm not going to reveal too much, but let's have a little look, see if anything has been said. And so far, nothing has. But, yeah, Jay and Yannick and Daniel, what a race between those three. And Yannick's come through to take P2. At the start of the race, he was 4th and 5th, and now he's 2nd. Jay had a really good race as well, you know. Daniel, Jay, Yannick and Jay pitting early helped them. It's been a bad thing for Harvey and Lefted, who's out. But the thing is, it's saying here he finished the race 1 lap behind, so it's odd. But we're just going to have a little look in the chat now to see if anyone's going to be coming in for an interview with us, as it was an interesting race.
Yeah, and say bonus props, I'd say, to Nick and Jack Humphreys, but just say sticking it out. Honestly, they're right
Yeah.
down at the bottom end of the field. Jack Humphreys in particular really stuck it out, but still brought the car home, and I think that's majorly commendable, honestly. But yeah, JSD right there, up at the top, fought valiantly, really managed that race to a T. And Yannick, despite all his efforts, just in the final dying moments of the race, couldn't quite get it to work. Neither could Daniel, as his tyres started to fail from under him. No DRS could really save him on that. And of course, Harvey Cohen. But we really want to know what happened. What happened to Lefted?
Who do you think's your driver of the days? Because for me, I'm going to say Philip Sousa. Started 16th, moved his way up to 7th. He had a bit of a lonely race. He didn't really get involved in too much, but he's really been able to benefit off people's incidents and get himself into P7. Also, Cameron Dowd started 9th, Leroy Brown started 7th, and those two made some good positions. But then at the top, that's where it really changed. And we're out of the lobby now. We're going to quickly switch back to the intermission page. So you can see us again. Hello, hello. I'm still really annoyed with that camera and why it's so wide. But we're going to try and see if we can get anyone in the interview channel. I don't think we will. I definitely know we won't get Lefty because he's probably saying a few bad words at the moment. But
yeah, I
that
imagine just has some choice words.
Yeah, that was a really good race to start the season. I can't describe how amazing that race was. It was really good, especially for a season opener. Normally we see a season opener, it's interesting, but it kind of dies off. This kind of stayed interesting all the way through because it wasn't always about just people making the moves and just the physical and then the visual entertainment. It's all about thinking what a driver's going to plan, what are they going to do in the later stages, which really made it interesting coming towards the end of the race. And then we was able to see what drivers were trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's a big one. Just like it's in the mind of a driver, it's so interesting from a spectator's perspective, trying to almost guess what people are thinking, or at least try and put two and two together as say, what's your race strategy and what's this, what's that? What are they trying to think? Sort of let him cook, so to speak.
Yeah.
But we always love it. Seeing
definitely.
how the racers behave and if I had to give a driver of the day, personally, it would be Daniel, just because they initially they had a really good jump from the off. They managed their resources extremely well considering their position, and then very unconventional strategy in terms of like really breaking away from the cadence of the rest of the field with that early medium switch. But yeah, still managed to make it work really well, in my opinion. So managed their resources super effectively, tires, DRS, ERS, and in the end came home P3, and I'd say really put on a good show.
Yeah, we're trying to get people into the interview room, but I can't actually drag anyone in, so we're waiting for Luke to get involved here and just drag Daniel and Jay through. I don't want to keep them waiting.
Dragging them in. Who would you like in first?
Jay and Daniel, but we can't drag them in. We don't have permission. So we've got to wait.
Oh no! Yeah.
Oh, Black Panther's in there. I think he's going to drag some up. Hopefully. Yeah, that's not ideal. Oh, there we go. We got Daniel in, and is he going to drag Jay up? I hope he is. But if not, we'll switch to Daniel first. Daniel, you here? If so, you're muted. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
So that was a really good start for you in the season. Qualified 5th, moved up to 3rd in the end. Obviously, coming into the final stages of the race, what did you think you could possibly fight for the win? Obviously, you fought with Joe, I think it was lap 34, and then you ended up fighting with Yannick and obviously losing out to him on the last couple of laps.
Yeah, obviously I knew it was going to be difficult with all the tires, but I think my undercut, it definitely worked because I was 5th before the pit stops and ended 3rd, so I'm happy with the race. I tried to go for the lead a few laps before the end, and yeah, just couldn't do it. And yes, I spammed all my ARS, so I couldn't really defend. But it's hard to say if I could have achieved anything better because yeah, Janek was very fast behind, and yeah, also very fast in the straights if he spammed his ERS. So I don't know if I could have done anything better.
Yeah. Sappy?
Yeah, I'd say I just sort of from my perspective, was the initial plan to do a bit of an undercut, or is that just sort of like an in-race decision, sort of examining your environment? It's like, okay, I can capitalize on the situation here.
Obviously, you have to see the situation how it is. I was P5, and yeah, just impossible to overtake in the RS train. So I knew I had to do something different to get up the field, and I don't think overcut it wouldn't work, and yeah, you saw it in the race as well. So I knew the undercut was the only way to gain positions.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely solid running out there, and I think it
Definitely.
worked great wonders.
Yep. But yeah, Daniel, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for round 2.
Yeah, see ya.
So next we've got Jay. Really good race from you, isn't it? You started P3, moved to P1. Obviously you pitted a lap earlier than Harvey and Left did. Did you think you would have been able to actually keep ahead of them, or was it just about just trying to get out around where you was initially?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the undercut. I know that the undercut was very strong here, and the time where Daniel get in the pits, I thought to pit also the next lap, but I think it was the right decision to stay one more lap out to have the fresher tires in the end.
Yeah, and it's really worked out. Do you happen to know? Do you happen to know what happened to Lefted at the end?
Not exactly.
Oh.
I was so focused in the race, and
Well,
makes a lot of fun.
yeah, and
GG.
it was a really, especially in the last few laps, it was really interesting between you and Daniel. He was getting really close, and to both of you, did a really good job at being able to battle hard without copying Max and Hamilton in the last couple of years. So, well done to you both on that. Obviously, you won the first race. Do you think that you're on charge for a championship, possibly?
Oh, that's a good question, but I think the season is very difficult. A lot of good drivers, and I think it depends on the track. Brazil was a track that I raced a lot on, and I think I have good pace. But other tracks it look a bit different. I will see. Yeah.
Yeah. But thanks for joining us, Jay, and we'll see you next time at.
Thank you very much, GG.
Right, you too. So next we've got Cameron.
Oh,
Yeah. How are you feeling, honestly? Just say before we jump into anything, how are you feeling on your performance today, mate?
yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty exhausted. I messed up a little bit at the start. I accidentally pressed overtake, and I just got a ton of wheel spin, and then I fell into P14, I think it was. And then yeah, after that, I was just about trying to pedal through the field. I made up 4 or 5 places just from people crashing and spinning, which was quite helpful. And then the pace was decent. And then I don't even know if I did a genuine overtake. I think the one was on bog dam, but apart from that, I think it was just strategy and people spinning and crashing that played into it. But yeah, it was a good race and good recovery.
Yeah, and I think I'd say the recovery effort really was sort of set you apart in that performance out there today. But yeah, say the strategy. I mean, what was your initial plan going in? Sort of like forgetting the overtake incident, obviously the recovery coming off of that. What was your initial plan or your initial expectations heading into, of course, round 1 of tier 2 here?
I kind of thought I'd be maybe top 10 most likely because I know most of the people from PSGL, but there was a few that's like I know's quicker than me, like perhaps Harvey. But I was hoping to be in the top 10, and I think qualified P9 or P10, which wasn't the best. My qualifying's never usually too good, but then the race was good and I had pretty good pace. It's really equal out there, so yeah, I'm happy to be in the top 5. That's a really good result, and hopefully I can just get top 10 every race. Hopefully.
Hmm. Well, you've done really well in PSGL. Obviously, mind my voice, Jesus. In the first 7 rounds, you scored points, and obviously in round 8 you didn't score any, unfortunately. So it shows you got that consistency. And a lot of
Yeah.
drivers in here are probably on the same pace, maybe a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit slower than PSGL F3. So I think it's good you can make an assumption on on PSGL and kind of figure out where you will be. And I think top 10 finishes are definitely on the cards for you every time. Obviously, you finished really well today with the P5, started 9th, went down to 14th, then moved all the way back up, which, it shows you're able to capitalise on people's mistakes, which is definitely something that'll help here in Tier 2. We've got some very difficult tracks coming up, so that's where we'll probably see people make more mistakes than they did today.
Yeah.
So, obviously, where are we off to next week? I've actually forgot.
Circuit of the Americas.
Circuit of the Americas. Are you excited for that one, Cameron?
Is that Austin, yeah?
Yeah.
Or Kota, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
Kota.
yeah, I like. Yeah, Kota's a good track. That should be good. I enjoy it a lot.
That's good to hear. And you're hoping to probably get another top 5 finish?
Hopefully.
Well,
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see.
It's got to push for it. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Cameron, and we'll see you
Yeah, no
next
problem.
time.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
Sappy,
See you.
no worries, see ya. That was a really exciting end to the stream, wasn't it? To the race.
You're underselling it, mate. You're underselling it, honestly. Like, everything kicked off in those last few laps.
Yeah.
Like, we saw spins from Mercedes. We saw, say, AlphaTauri randomly going out in literally the final few meters. It kind of all kicked off at the end,
Yeah.
but it's almost just like, it's certainly at the top end. We predicted a bit of fighting right to the line, but nowhere near to the extent. And honestly, it sets a really good precedent for the rest of the WR season.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. And we'll have a little look back at the calendar quickly because I forgot what race we've got up next. But we've obviously got Kota, which should be another amazing one. Battling, especially into in the middle sector and the last sector. Obviously, we saw with esports, was it Brendan Lee, Barry, was it Ron Harignano who fought on the last lap? So we never know. We might see some of that next week. And then obviously we're off to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, for me, it's either a really good race or a really bad race. You just got to hope the drivers are confident enough and good enough to not crash because, I'd probably say Baku's worse than Jeddah, personally. What would you say on Azerbaijan? Where would you put it in terms of difficultness?
I don't know. It's certainly one of the most difficult tracks in the calendar, but I wouldn't necessarily put it above Jeddah because Jeddah, at least, there are some areas where the track can forgive you. Like, there's some of the complexes that if you go off track, there is a little bit of runoff. Baku,
Yeah.
you don't really have that well anywhere. It's a street circuit. You're using the architecture that's there, and especially coming through, say, Sector 2, Sector 3, Castle section, sort of the big, almost drag race, that massive straight, comprising pretty much half the race distance. There's really no real room for error in a lot of ways.
Definitely. So that's what makes them both difficult tracks. But enough of us rambling on. We're going to head off now. My voice is completely dead. Coming onto the stream, I was fine, and now I feel like someone who's been smoking for the past 70 years. So I need to give my voice a rest for next week. I'm back at. I've got some more commentary before the end of the week, so I hope my voice is back in top notch before then. But it's great to see everyone in the chat. We had quite a lot of viewers, which is nice, as normal. But thanks, Sappy, for joining me here today, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah, brilliant to hear. So looking forward to seeing everyone next time out in Circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas. It's going to be good. United States Grand Prix.
So thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time for round 2 next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.